Well, good evening, folks, or good morning, depending on, I guess it's up to you to download the show and listen to it at your own leisure, at either the morning time, nighttime, good what have you. It's another beautiful night here, or morning, you know?
Or afternoon.
And it could be shitty out, I don't know.
What's up, everybody? This is Jake S.Chambers, and you're listening to the first episode of the MERC Podcast. We're going to cover a lot of topics, occasionally a story from my journey, as I'm currently training to be a pro wrestler. So, an original idea, right? Currently a wannabe wrestler with a podcast. Along with wrestling, we'll be covering many things I enjoy and whatever catches my attention. This being comedy, clips from other podcasts, video game news, current events, and whatever else, of course, kind of catches my attention, as I mentioned before. So we're going to be all over the place with this. This is pretty rough, as we're just recording from a standard recorder here and nothing necessarily major. We're doing this guerrilla style. And first things first, I do just want to make a mention of this, a little bit of a disclaimer. My views may occasionally offend somebody. The things that I like may occasionally offend you. Don't take it personally, just move along. I don't mean any offense of it. I'm just a person that enjoys doing whatever catches my attention here. So here we go. Along with the first story here, I do want to make a mention along the way. If you are a fan of podcasts or the comedy world in general, I am 100% going to be pulling from ideas of my favorite podcasts. So if you're going to say that I'm copying something, believe me, I already know. On to story number 1, we're covering Godzilla, who saved the world by making a city dangerously and hopefully permanently irradiated, thus saving the world from the true villain of that movie, the city of Boston. And Godzilla, with the track record more successful than current DC Superman, of making sure that your city does not get destroyed, because if you have to choose between the two, choose between Godzilla, because Superman is not going to leave you happy, and you're going to have an angry Ben Affleck following you throughout that movie. So with that being said, that covers Godzilla there. Toy Story 4 recently came out too, and this was not a letdown, and is a reminder of how much I'm not a child, because it was like that scene from Billy Madison where Sandler's just kind of sitting in a class of a whole bunch of children, and there you are, a grown-ass man with kids that are still in elementary school. And yeah, me being a diehard Mad TV fan, man, was I happy to see my boys Key&peele as the adorably animated Ducky and Bunny, and full Key&peele mode too. And that, for me, definitely did take this movie to what can only be described as
take it to a whole never level.
And we're on to Pokemon Jail in regards to just somewhat of video game news here. Now, recently, this is apparently a thing that's going to be upcoming for the release of Sword and Shield. They're reporting that they're going to have a problem that will likely only affect a select minority, but for sure it's going to be a loud bunch that's going to be affected by this. They're stating that in the new games, they will not have all the Pokemon available to transfer to use from the system that they have the Pokemon Bank on, which I'm sure it's still going to be a success financially, but I do have a bit of a rant on this. Pokemon, which has been produced by Game Freak since the inception, really, of the game, is essentially a money-making machine. There's really no excuse for them to let this kind of shady performance happen on their end with their devs and their animators. They need to make this happen. They need to anticipate this. And 3, they can always release a patch for this, but they likely never do, as most games in this kind of category never really receive patches like this that improve the quality of life. And 4, there's been modded versions in regards to just bootleg rip-off Pokemon games out there in the world that have better animations than what they currently have today. I'm sure we all seen those Unreal Engines produce videos where you have Pokemon in a world like Grand Theft Auto, and things of that nature. And myself, I do have a background in QA testing for video games back in the days of THQ, rest and rip, where I've seen what goes behind in just making these type of things. Again, no excuse, man. You really can be better, and Game Freak just really dropped the ball when it comes to that. So, and speaking of Pokemon, here we go.
That's what I'm talking about. Collecting them, trading them, gotta catch them all.
Yeah, there you go.
Slavery. Yeah. Slavery. It's a different show. It's a little harsher than Pokemon, but it's the same concept. The Pokemon was just a way to trick people into getting back into slavery. Brainwashing kids into thinking slavery is okay. In a lot of ways, Pikachu is a slave. He can only say his name, and that was not the name he chose. My name is Toby. No, it's Pikachu. If you don't say it, I'll beat you. Doesn't matter if you choose red or blue, the game's about slavery. Collecting slaves. It's okay if they're cute.
Damn. D'Artagnan, I choose
Can I
you.
read? Slaves or Pokemon asking to be learn how to read.
They only know how to say their own name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Your name is Charizard.
Kunda Kente.
Charizard.
And you're going to be hearing a lot of those guys. That was primarily Nick Mullen from the popular podcast Come Town. So I'm going to hopefully find some clips that I can suitably drop in here. But with that being said, for just the little bit of news that I have for video game news today, we're going to be covering a segment that was called Guess the News, where it's exactly as it mentioned. We're going to be guessing headlines. Well, we're going to be going by the headlines and just merely guessing what goes on with that. If it does catch my attention enough, we're going to dig a little bit more into that. So, ladies and gentlemen, here we go.
It's time for another edition of Guess the News.
I have to know more information. I shouldn't have read just this headline. From the headlines that I've read, this man is innocent. He is the victim.
Man, these guys don't know shit.
All right, so guess the news. In the headlines we have recently, Chernobyl workers are adopting the site's contaminated dogs. Noted suitable, but not all are safe to pet. I guess this is just mainly an Eastern European thing, because I don't see this type of thing flying for 3 Mile Island in the United States. If it does, I don't hear about it. But as much as I'm a friend of furry animals, I just don't feel that this is a safe thing to do. I mean, again, not an expert here, but this just sounds like a horror movie in the making, or that dog is going to give you all forms of radiation just oozing off from it onto you. I mean, how many generations has that been since the Chernobyl accident that the mutations have maybe taken into effect for all the different generations of dogs that have been there? Still kind of sad, but again, I'm pretty sure that if anything is super serious, we're going to be hearing about this shortly. So here's to them. Lindsay Lohan had a reality show that was canceled due to lack of drama. Good for her. That's all we're going to be saying about that. And recently, it looks like that, again, old news by the time you guys are probably listening to this, Dana White is wanting to set up a fight between Justin Bieber and Tom Cruise.
No for gay Jesus people.
I don't know about that. I mean, would I like to see it? Sure. I mean, I'd want to see crazy Tom Cruise do that. But probably not going to happen. Slim chance of, if anything, for that happening. If it does happen, for sure, it's going to be just a major sell on pay-per-views, because I will really want to see what happens there. And let's see. What do we have? This one seems pretty obvious. Apparently, rude surgeons may have worse patient outcomes. I mean, you're just putting in that type of positivity or negativity out into the universe with the type of work that you do, which involves cutting up and saving people. You're just asking for trouble if you're already just coming out with bad and negative vibes in that situation. So let that be a lesson. Even if it may be a bit superstitious, avoid the surgeons with an attitude. They know better. If they clearly don't want to help you out or be honest with you, at least be on a situation where they're able to calmly advise you if it's a bad idea, just avoid them altogether. More pregnant women in the U.S. are using pot, study finds, according to CNN. So, probably not a good idea. I know that people always want to make the argument that it's safer than tobacco products and alcohol, but I think it might be radical for me to say this. Again, I'm not somebody that carries a child, but probably not the best idea to take any kind of foreign substance while you're pregnant. I mean, try just doctor's orders, people. Come on, please, for the sake of your own children, to make sure that they could come out as healthy as possible. I mean, granted, my nephews, they were born to somebody that did not give a damn about any of that, and were probably born with quite a cocktail of drugs in their body, but they seem to be okay for now. But don't tempt fate, people, please. Along with this, we're having another story showing that horns are growing on young people's skulls. Phone use is to blame. I feel like phone use is to blame for a lot of things. I don't know how I feel about any studies with regards to that, and I'm sure that we're going to be finding out a whole bunch of other things about this. I mean, for all we know, it could be just because of the fact that we have to deal with a whole bunch of different substances and a whole bunch of different environmental reasons as compared to what we had to do 20, 30 years ago. I mean, the fact that life today as we know it, as of 2005 to now, has changed drastically from 1995. I mean, just think about the everyday use of technology, not just phone use alone, but just everything in general, what you're being bombarded by. And kids typically too, what they have to deal with. I mean, let's face it, they're going to be exposed to technology at a much more rapid rate than we ever did if you're within the 25 and over range at this point. Let's see, U.S. suicide rate is up 33% since 1999. I don't know what to blame here. I mean, people always say that the world has been as good as it can be since the history. I mean, we're not having rapists and pillagers, at least not in the advanced societies that we have today, as far as just your US, UK, England, Eurasia, those type of situations. But, I mean, I'm not surprised. People are overworking themselves and not enjoying the little things in life. I'll say one thing to that. No amount of money is ever going to buy you time. So whenever it comes to overtime, unless you have a plan of what you're going to be doing with that money, or you're saving up for something specifically as far as a plan, no amount of money is ever going to buy you that time back. Just enjoy your time while you have it, because believe me, you're going to miss out on it more than anything. Even if it means doing nothing, enjoy doing nothing. Just hang out there, relax, soak up the rays, read a book, catch up on an old series, go out with some friends, walk around the neighborhood. I mean, unless you absolutely desperately need the money to get from point A to point B, I get it, to your next point in life, but I don't know. I know that there's more to go with that suicide rate, but I just say take it easy on the work and don't let people get to you. Don't hold grudges specifically on that end. Recently, there was a shooter in Dallas, which makes me think that this person had a death wish, speaking about suicide. A former soldier, apparently, according to these headlines, but he was attempting to shoot a federal building in Dallas, Texas. And, I mean, mistake number one, you're attempting to shoot out in a federal building. Mistake number two, you're attempting to shoot out in Texas. I mean, rest and rip, gunman, but I don't want to bother learning your name or giving you attention. I mean, I feel sorry for you that you had to do that, and for anybody that was affected by this, family, friends of his, if he had any. But, I mean, wow, that was bad. on a lighter note, according to Planet Fitness on their promotion, they have a dad bod promotion. They're saying that most people prefer the dad bod. I don't know how I feel about that particularly. I feel like that's just Planet Fitness trying to use better etiquette. But then again, I mean, let's be perfectly honest. Whenever it comes to muscles, looking better, most people that end up caring is going to be the guy themselves that's trying to get in shape, or in the case of men, gay men. And I could speak from that sake personally because I live in that world myself. And ask questions if you need to, but believe me when I say that men are pretty shallow, especially towards other men. Women, on the other hand, on the majority, not as shallow as men, which, I mean, I could see how that makes sense, but I mean, dad bod's never been a good thing. I'll say one thing about that. Be a better you today so that you could be an okay you when you get older, because you don't want to be an okay you version of yourself right now and then end up in just shitty shape when you're in your 40s and 50s. So stay healthy, people. On the wrestling, we're going to avoid any negativity with regards to this. Mainly, I don't want to dig myself in a hole, considering what I want to aspire to be and what I'm pursuing. But if you got nothing nice to say, don't say that. So there is going to be occasionally some things that we skip, and read between the lines, people. We're just going to be covering the good stuff. Now, Monday Night Raw, match or moment of the night. In my opinion, were the Good Brothers. They were on, they had some screen time, and they had a match. So alone makes it the highlight of the night for me. It's been a while since we've seen those guys. Granted, they didn't win this one, but here's hoping that there's more to it. Another highlight is that we had Ricochet becoming the number one contender for Mr. Samoa Joe's title, or as he was commonly referred to as in TNA,
Joe!
by the one and only Scott Steiner. Now, I'm just kidding. I'm talking about my boy Samoa Joe, and I love those moments with Steiner back in the day from TNA. All of those amazing soundbiteable moments.
He's fat!
And I'm going to find ways to use that drop repeatedly somehow. Not aimed towards Joe, but just in specific. Now, on the show, we had the Revival being used a lot through this episode of Monday Night Raw as Shane's entourage. So good for them. At least they're getting some screen time again. I want to make sure that it's noted that I want certain people to get their due. Certain people that haven't gotten what I feel would be just good moments for them in their career, especially in the world of wrestling. But now, they were accompanying Shane McMahon, and whenever you think about Shane McMahon or talk about Shane McMahon, at least on this show, we have to always bring back a very, very special memory. That moment when Kevin Owens and Sami Zayn made Shane McMahon do a funny noise. Also, my boy EY on this episode, Eric Young, got a moment backstage with Rollins as he was declining to be the special guest referee for the match that Corbin was setting up in Stomping Grounds. After which, this ended up with Rollins just beating up EY. So, sorry EY, hopefully we'll get to see a little bit more of you, but outside of that situation. We also got to see Ice Cube's kid in attendance in the camp for about 0.4 seconds, being that this was an episode that took place in LA. There was an amazing main event that I can't believe we haven't seen more of this, considering how much in the way the WWE tends to do things, we usually see matches repeat themselves quite a bit. No complaints there. I mean, everybody has their own way of doing things. We saw Daniel Bryan versus Seth Rollins. Definitely worth the watch if you didn't get into that. And now in this one, Rollins did take up the victory, but again, great match. Definitely worth a watch. Now on to SmackDown. Match of the night or moment of the night of the show. We had a couple of my faves, that being Shelton Benjamin, who was on it. Man, I want to see more Shelton Benjamin. Just people who don't get used as often. And I mean, I always feel like he should be one of those top guys, considering that he was part of that OVW system along with Orton, Cena, Lesnar. I mean, that's just murderer's row right there. And Batista too, if I'm not mistaken. we got to see more of Benjamin. He definitely has a lot more in the tank. And along with him, we of course saw Matt Hardy referring to Shelton as Senor Benjamin, so nod there, at least for them going along with that. And also Bo Dallas and Curtis Axel, all of them just going for the opportunity to hopefully be involved with that Corbin and Rollins match. So that's it for SmackDown. 205 Live, which just keeps getting better and better as a show in general. If you've been following it from the beginning up to now, you can definitely tell that they're paying a lot of attention to this. And it was definitely the highlight of the week for me, or at least as far as up to Tuesday for where it goes wrestling to wrestling. Now, being that this is a shorter show, let's cover this in a bit more detail. We had the Lucha House Party versus the Singh Brothers. A great match. Good job for the Singh Brothers as the heel, getting the win with a dirty pin, as heels should do. Kendrick was able to have a great match with some local talent, and let's face it, Kendrick can probably have a good match with anybody at this point, considering how much experience he has. Now, this was against, of course, some local talent, in which Kendrick was the victor of this match, but that local talent did have a few good moments in this match. Surprisingly, it wasn't just 100% one-sided towards Kendrick. Now, the main event, we had Arya Daivari versus Oni Lorcan, and wow, this was a fast-paced and vicious match. It did ultimately end up in a DQ because they have a story built up between both of them. Right now, where Oni Lorcan has injured Daivari and Daivari has done a sneak attack on Lorcan. I feel like this is great. This sets it up for further stories along the way. Now, Daivari did end up, as I mentioned, getting DQ'd by using a chair against Lorcan. So, highlight of that, we get to see these type of high-intensity matches keep on going between these two. A notable highlight of this is that they were doing a great job pushing the title match involving the current champ Tony Nese taking on Akira Tozawa and my general favorite wrestler, currently 205 in main roster at the moment, Drew Gulak. Love his style, love what he can do on the mic. Let's see more of Drew. Now on to NXT. Before anything, highlight of the show, yay for Tyler Breeze being on this show. Good for Tyler Breeze. Again, as I mentioned, there's certain people that I love to see getting screen time, and Tyler Breeze is definitely one of them. Now, we had the debut of Punishment Martinez, now known as Damian Priest, taking on and almost entirely dominating in a match against Raul Mendoza. The main event, however, was amazing in this episode of NXT. We had the Undisputed Era members, Adam Cole, Roderick Strong, and Bobby Fish taking on Patrick Clark, aka Velveteen Dream, Matt Riddle, and Tyler Breeze. The finish definitely caught me by surprise because I was expecting a different person to likely get pinned in this situation. But kudos to Roderick Strong for getting the pinfall victory on Velveteen Dream. Hopefully this leads to something better for Roddy. We'll wait and see. Now on to NXT UK. Highlight of the night for sure. That awkward moment where Cassius Ohno's match was over and we saw Imperium's music hit. Ohno, he must either be a great actor or something, but it almost looked like that caught him by surprise because he just kind of shuffled off to the side as Imperium made their way to the ring. I love what they're doing with Imperium. Huge fan of factions in general. Makes things more fun when you have groups going against other groups. Japan definitely does this better than most currently at the moment. Also a moment where I think Alexander Wolf was mentioning, no, it wasn't Alexander Wolf. I think that was Fabian Eichner mentioning something about his unit.
We want wrestling! We want wrestling! We want wrestling! As you saw last week, our numbers have increased. Our unit is now complete.
That's what she said.
I agree. Now, Rhea Ripley was involved in one of the final matches of the show in what was a women's battle royale, and I always love being able to see Rhea Ripley. I love her style, probably one of my favorite female wrestlers, and wrestlers in general too. So I always enjoy seeing her work, and hopefully we get to see more of her as well. Now, on to June 23rd, 2019. WWE Stomping Grounds. The first time this pay-per-view is rolled out, and I believe what was mentioned was that attendance was fairly low for this pay-per-view. Again, people generally don't have good moments all the time. So one thing that I will say about this show, I personally enjoyed it top to bottom. Even the pre-show was definitely worth the watch. And speaking of the pre-show, match of the night right there, people. Cruiserweights took it. My boy Drew Gulak wins the title. And definitely, for sure, my pick of the night. Now, Becky, moving forward with this, Becky then retains against Lacey via submission. Mustafa Ali gets a superhero inspirational type video package of him walking through the streets, where other wrestlers are involved in this package. I believe I might have caught Anderson and a couple other wrestlers as bullies involved in this. But let's hopefully see that this gets Mustafa Ali some more good opportunities. There's a Paul Heyman segment teasing about Lesnar potentially being involved. Again, Lesnar being the Money in the Bank winner currently. We're waiting to see how that's going to develop moving forward. Now, Baron Corbin was being a bit creepy towards, I think it was Charlie Caruso, talking about his pick for special guest referee. And Sami Zayn later comes out to cheers by the fans because, let's face it, we still love you, Sami, and his goofy animated dancing, accompanied by Kevin Owens as the straight man in their tag match. They will be going against New Day members Xavier Woods and Big E in this match. Notable highlight of this match, Sami Zayn executing a crossface on Xavier while it actually being referred to as a crossface. Now, I'm pretty sure this hasn't been the first time since the incident, but read between the lines on that one, people. Yeah, I mean, good for them. And goddamn, Big E is just a charismatic powerhouse. Somebody give that man a title run, any title run, please, because that is just money waiting to happen. And Xavier giving Big E the electric chair, which just, wow, that is tough to do, or at least it looks difficult to do. The resulting conclusion of this match is Kevin Owens capturing the pinfall by giving a stunner to Xavier Woods. Moving on next, we have a segment between Alexa Cross, I combined somebody into one person, Alexa and Nikki Cross. And moving past that, we now have the match between Ricochet going against the one and only
Steve Joe
for the U.S. title. Now, looking into this, Ricochet ends up winning the U.S. title, which, I mean, way to go for him. I think this is his first title run in the main roster. So, I mean, that's a pretty fast rise. Aside from Balor, I don't think any new current NXT talent, again, outside of Balor, has moved up this fast. So, here's hoping he can keep that momentum going, because Ricochet is definitely one of those people that if you don't know him, once you watch one of his matches, you're going to remember him. Now, let's see here. One thing that was noticeable, if you watch this match back, notice how many times the announcers have to mention their name specifically, as far as Ricochet, 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 or Samoa Joe. Now, rumor has it pronouns don't exist in this world, but if I was a pro at what I'm doing, I'd definitely make a supercut out of this, just because that's definitely interesting to keep account of that. Now, there was a backstage segment after the victory, being congratulated by Ricochet being congratulated by everyone, even Triple H. And this led up to the next match of Heavy Machinery versus Daniel Bryan and Rowan, who I feel that because of Daniel Bryan being just so high on the totem pole for WWE, this allows Daniel Bryan to do what I believe he feels is correct in this case by giving more attention to the tag team division. Now, WWE does have an amazing tag team division, but I feel that they are sometimes a bit underutilized. And in this case, with Daniel Bryan, hopefully they let him keep the title with Rowan, because for one, it builds up Rowan, and anybody that works with Bryan is immediately going to get better, because that man is the best at absolutely everything, whether it comes to mic work, in-ring abilities, you name it, he's good at it when it's pro wrestling. Now, notable moment of the match, Corey Graves was making plenty of comments about the size of Otis's body from Heavy Machinery.
He's fat!
Now, there was an amazing moment in this match. There was a Drive a Prius chant, because I believe this was taking place nearby to Daniel Bryan's hometown, so home field advantage for him. And they were for sure cheering him more than anybody else in this match. He definitely had the home field advantage on this end. And good effort for Heavy Machinery, putting on a great match. Great future for them in the tag team division. This gets the attention it needs. But ultimately, this led to Daniel Bryan and Rowan getting the victory in this match, with them retaining. We move back to Bayley versus Alexa, accompanied with a promo and build-up. I feel that there's plenty of competitors on SmackDown to challenge Bayley for the title, in this case being that she is the champion. So it's a bit odd that she's a SmackDown champ taking a match against the Raw competitor Alexa Bliss. But this was a good match. When you get right down to it, it was a great match. There was a bit of an odd finish when Nikki Cross interfered, which resulted in Bayley getting the win. Now, we cut to a rehash of the 24/7 title moving forward, where Drake Maverick is celebrating his wedding, and then we see him losing it to R-Truth at his wedding as he's walking down the aisle. And I'm calling this a highlight of the pay-per-view. We had the Good Brothers once again crashed a photo shoot with Ricochet, along with AJ Styles accompanying them. So I hope this is going in a situation where we can see Carl Anderson and Gallows just become more of a dominant force in this situation. All right, moving forward on this match, we had Roman Reigns beat McIntyre, Kofi Kingston beat Ziggler and retain by escaping the cage in a very spectacular Kofi way. Rollins versus Corbin with Lacey Evans is now the special guest referee. Rollins retains. And let's see here. I believe that is pretty much it, everybody. We have gone through quite a bit of wrestling. So, with that being said, we're going to be giving you a little bit of random tidbits from podcast.
And now, they never had segregation in Canada, huh?
Yeah, they did.
Did they? I don't know.
Yep.
What do you mean? But like, of course
French
they did.
and English, keep them separate. That's what I say. How dare they speak French? How
Maybe that's
dare
the reason
they?
Canada was less racist, is because there were French people to hate.
The only good thing that the French ever gave this country is at the airport, when it says that a flight is delayed, it says en retard. That's the only good thing they ever gave this That is good. That is good.
I will admit that.
That is a good bit.
Also, they must have.
That is the only good thing they've done for you.
They must have good croissants and shit.
And I swear to God, and this is a direct threat on the life of Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I swear to God, if I see him and if I find myself in a self-defense situation, I'm gonna fucking kick his pretty ass. I'm gonna suck his dick. I'm gonna suck it so good.
Oh yeah.
I'm gonna fucking suck the Prime Minister's dick for insulting my king, Donald. My angel. Respect the office.
The most respected man in the world was often nude
Yeah.
and eating treats that have been thrown at him
Yep.
like a pig.
Sounds like you haven't read The Emperor Has No Clothes. About an emperor who was respected for being nude, if I recall correctly.
And he got a new groove?
Huh? No.
That's a different emperor.
Different emperor.
Yeah.
Not as fucking cool as the nude emperor walking around with his cock hanging out. That is a cool guy, actually, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, the Emperor rules. There's no part of that story where he looks dumb. Where they're like, we're going to make you the coolest clothes in the world, and it's just his naked body, and he looks in the mirror, and he's like, damn, I look good.
That guy rocks.
Yeah, he's like, check out my fucking suit. I mean, the fact that he would even force people to look at his clothes.
Yeah.
I love him. I love that emperor.
I love that emperor. The story's like, oh, he's stupid and bad, and only some dumbass little kid tells him. First of all, fuck that.
That kid, that kid. First of all, he's immediately being executed.
Yeah. The emperor's like, oh, so you were looking at my dick if I'm not wearing clothes? Oh, okay. You're looking at my dick.
Child is found guilty of reverse pedophilia.
Yeah. keeps trying to fuck
the highest crime in all of Newdumbria.
Wait, what? I didn't hear. What's it called?
Newdumbria?
Oh, no, the crime that he committed.
Oh, reverse pedophilia. I'm just like a reverse racism guy that complains about reverse pedophilia. I can't be attracted.
Because they were there for, they both have Asian wives, but they were there for, living there for like over 10 years, and they speak fluent Thai. So is that allowed?
I train Muay Thai.
I'm going to ask some of the Asians.
They're not Thai. They're not Thai. She's
I know, but
Vietnamese.
as Asian, I can say.
I train Muay Thai, so I can tell you it's allowed.
I trained Muay Thai for years because Who's you
Wait! Whenever they kick. Wait! Some guys in the UFC, when they roundhouse, when they'll kick like legs, or they'll kick, their corner will go, "Oi! Oi!"
And why? And
Mayhem
no one can explain
Miller.
it.
This guy was there. Said the Mayhem Miller got in a fight with like literally 10 dudes in Florida, Miami, and they were all like these giant roid heads, and they didn't know who they were fucking with. And Mayhem was dancing with a girl.
Oh, no.
And the guy goes, "Hey, bro, get the fuck out of here."
Oh,
and goes to try to punch Mayhem. And Mayhem goes, he steps out and just goes, "Oi!" and fucking brings the guy's face down on his knee. "Oi!" And then his friend said that Mayhem was out in the street and he was just going, "Oi! Oi!" and just throwing elbows as guys are coming and hitting him and smiling, "Oi! Oi! Oi!" And there was like a mountain of bodies all around him.
Jesus.
He was just literally out of a movie. Like, you fucked with Mayhem Miller, you fucking big muscular roid heads who had no idea. And he beat up like literally a gang of dudes, like a gang of guys just that kept coming. And he was going, "Oi! Oi!"
And Mayhem Miller smiles when he fights.
Oh, he's the best.
Yeah.
And with those amounts of random bits that I've just gone and thrown at you guys without no exposition or context whatsoever, we're going to move on to this next one because we're figuring out this process as we go, people. And I'm a bit of a one-take kind of person. And God, going back and redoing some of this, I mean, what's the point? Let's give you all the mistakes, all the stutters and everything. So this next bit is going to be from High Society Podcast, in which one of the main hosts, Chris Stanley, is legitimately just torn apart after he finds out and just utterly devastated that Johnny Depp in Pirates of the Caribbean was just doing an impersonation of one of the members of Rolling Stones.
Pirates of the Caribbean, Johnny Depp's just doing fucking Keith Richards, and you're like, oh,
wait,
man,
what?
Second
movie.
Yeah, that's every single. That's all he does.
Fucking second movie. That fucking ruined it for me.
You didn't know that? Oh, dude, you can't even watch it the same, dude. It's all he's doing for fucking 6 movies. He's literally doing Keith Richards.
That's his favorite movie.
Oh, no, you guys haven't told him yet?
Not even my favorite movie, dude.
Nor should we.
Your favorite franchise?
My favorite trilogy.
Oh,
I thought you were
no.
going to say favorite ride.
That was next.
Do you think he ever had money to
dude,
even
he
go
just
to Florida
he
as a
literally
kid?
says he's just doing an impersonation of Keith Richards.
Watch American Psycho again. He's
And that's
Yeah,
Tom
that
Cruise.
fucking
That's
just blew my
nuts,
mind. I didn't
dude.
fucking put 2 and 2
Hold on, wait,
together.
Stanley. Are you okay?
No. I'm going to throw myself into traffic because fucking scumbag Johnny Depp
So somebody
He's just doing Keith Richards?
ripped off fucking Keith Richards.
You big boy though. Call hit you won't fucking die.
You know what? That's
He does a
fat
very
shame.
good
That's
Keith-
fat shaming,
Not
and I don't
fat shaming.
fucking need to take it. All right, because I have had a traumatic experience.
It sounds
in
like
the
it,
last
man.
fucking 2 minutes.
You be a
You know? Hey, Alex, lay off the fucking shots.
Alrighty. Now, that's going to be it for episode 1. We're going to hopefully try to keep this up as much as we can with the limitations of course, what I can upload to Libsyn or wherever this is going to be going up. So, I'll catch you guys next time. And this has been episode number 1 of the MERC Podcast with Jake S. Chambers.